Hello, our followers in English language. Today we will develop, I think, in my opinion, a very important topic. It is regarding posture, but it is regarding posture and measure the posture. And also, we will speak about something very not well known, that is the scares into the postural alteration and how can measure it. But also you will see the connection between the whole body and how with the posturometer diagnosis you can go to the main topic where we have to start, the main cause. That means the priority. Don't miss this presentation, please. Okay, let's go with the transmission. Posturometer is an instrument that allows us to measure. Do you know, when we start our treatment, it's very important to measure the clinical diagnosis. We said in our school that clinical opinion, it is only an opinion. If we can measure it, we will transform it into science. And that's very important concept to have in our mind. As I told you before, we will talk today about NPR method in scares and posture. Chronic scares greatly interfere with the energy flow in our body, and as a consequence, it is creating an alteration into the tonic postural system. The postural effect. They interfere with the energy lines. Imagine, as in acupuncture, we have parallels of meridians of energy in the body. The energy flows through these lines of energy. When we have a chronic scare, it will stop the energy fluids and then can alter muscle change and also the posture and also our physical rehabilitation. We can have in our body the vertical scare or an parallel scare. The alteration of the muscle change is different between a line scale and a parallel scale. But in that transmission, we will not talk about diagnosis of a scale, only to see how they can interfere in our postural body and also in our rehabilitation. And remember always that the craniofacial system is also part of our body, and also there the scares can create alteration in our posture. We see that particular patient is a 60-year-old patient. At that age, adaptation is nearly to finish. She has diffuse chronic pain, treated with different techniques and different medication. Regarding the scares, she has a post-chronic scare after cesarean and a scare in the right knee after a surgical intervention. Also, she has a biochemical alteration. Why? Because she took a lot of medication. There's intoxication by medication. And associated on it, there is also an psychological problem. As you see, it's a complex patient with a chronic pain. We cannot treat only with physical rehabilitation. That is very wrong. This is the patient. As you will see, there is a very, very big postural alteration, very big. You see the frontal imaging and the posterior, the back imaging is saying how it's overload to the right side. Very, very big overload. She has also, by the age, an arthrosis. And if you see the extension test, there is a little rotation to the back in the leg arm. And the foot. If you see the foot, we can imagine that we are in front of a causative foot. And as you will see later, that is very wrong when we measure it. You see, in the lateral movement, it has a very big block. She cannot move at all. And also, when she is going up and down, flexion and extension, cervical block, very, very big, related with his occlusal problem. Hypoconvergence. It is a bilateral hypoconvergence, but more into the right eye. And it's correcting in the differential test. That means there is not a central problem, but a peripheral problem. And the occlusion, look at that. A chronic bad occlusion. A chronic bad problem, who is creating a lot of bruxisms during the time that is creating a lot of alteration also into the muscle change. And if you see that picture from the back, how the foot are in torsion, internal torsion, that means hyperactivity of the muscle chain. And the sutures, also, you can observe here, the torsion of the sutures. And here is the posturometer diagnosis, and we will stop a little bit to explain that graphics. Okay, posturometer have 4 graphics to analyze. Obviously, here we are not doing a course of posturometer, but it's synthetically to explain to you how it works, and you can understand the graphics. The posturometer is developed with the concept of Katanji on the body weight distribution in this 3 points on each foot, and is analyzing the overload, the torsion, the oscillation, the varicenter, etc., etc. We have 4 graphics: the posturometric graphic, the foot support graphic, the torsion graphic, and the varicenter graphic. We analyze this one. It's a comparison between graphics. In the diagnosis, we do 3 exams. One of them is with the eyes open and the mouth open. The second one is with the eyes open and the mouth closed. The third is to test the foot support is eyes closed and the mouth open. But in this case, I put here to compare the third one on the right, the graphic of the scales. And if you see there, you can observe the overload to the, with the mouth open, overloads to the right, 2.4 kilos. But it's a very good oscillation, harmonic oscillation of the bone. When you see that, this oscillation is normal, overload here, but the other thing we have to observe is that when the patient closed his mouth, in the middle graphic, observe, oscillation is 3.2, increasing. And look at the oscillation. How is increasing? It is less the oscillation. That's why the occlusion, the jaw position, is creating a lot of hyperactivity in the muscle chain. And look at here in the third graphic. In the third graphic, with this testing the scales, the overload is coming better, but the oscillation is worse. It's not good coordination of the muscle change, and that's very important to make a diagnosis. We go into the next graphic of the trace, who is the foot support. How it works. This is the body center of the foot, and we normally, as I told you before, we test one with the eyes open and the mouth open, and the second one with the eyes closed and the mouth open. What we test? We test the reception property of the foot as a receptor. If a foot is repeating the graphics in the same way, that means superposition of the graphics, we said that receptor is not creating problem into the posture. And in this case, you see red and blue have a superposition. But not only that, we observe how is the body center. You see here, the body center is external to the X and the I. Here is a varus body center, and also is varus body center here. That means that foot is harmonic. For that reason, it is not a causative foot. That's why it's very important to measure, to do not make a mistake. Clinical opinion, when it's measured, it is science. And we go into the torsion of the body. As you see here, the torsion of the body is equal. There is not difference. There is not a lot of torsion in the body. It's just overload. And the last one is the body center graph. And that's, we have to analyze that graphic because it's important to understand what happened. Body center is a very important study in the Posturometer. We have to analyze if the body center is in the right place. And as we see here, body center is not in the right place. The right place has to be here. The body center has to be here, in this area, and it's not. Body center is forward and to the right. That's very important to understand. Very, very important to understand, because normally we analyze that for a good diagnosis. It's very, very important. What we analyze also, we analyze the form of the body center, if it's harmonic or not. But also we analyze with the posturometer, we analyze comfort of the body, the oscillation of the body, how it is, and the muscle tone. That's very important. I cannot explain in a short time what they mean, but just I try to tell all of you what we see. In the first one, who is the comfort? Biggest is the value. More discomfort have the body. And look at here, scarce is the biggest. Regarding the oscillation, normal value is 0.5. Less of this value is more oscillation forward and back. And more than that value is lateral oscillation. As you see here, scarce are increasing the lateral oscillation because they are interfering with the master chain. And the last value, who is the master tone, bigger is less tone. The body loses the tone. Look at here. This is the beginning tone. The mouth in the middle is creating hypertonic, as we see in the posturometric graph. And here, with the scale, we lose tone. As you see here, the main problem that we have to treat is obviously the mouse and the scale. And with the posturometer, if you understand very well the concept of diagnosis, is a good complementary analysis for the clinical analysis. It's very important, as I am showing in this presentation. And then we go to the final thing, to is the protocol therapy. With this diagnosis, we plan the protocol therapy. First step is bed deprogrammation, the body equilibrium device for craniofacial deprogramming, because it's a priority. We will do also a psychological therapy, because this patient had a very, very big psychological problem, and we need it. Then we do the mesotherapy for scale deprogramming, and we take it out the scale. The mesotherapy is not in one session. We have 3 or 4 sessions to do the deprogramming. Then we do the toxin, purification of the body. That means biochemistry deprogramming, and after that, physical rehabilitation. And believe me, if you follow that, your physical rehabilitation will be permanent, will be not recidiva. Any technique you will use. The goal of NPR is this: to go to the priority, to eliminate the aggression, and then to do the physical rehabilitation. And then we arrive to the finish, to the end. The conclusion: go to a good diagnosis, clinical diagnosis, do a complementary measure with an instrument, and then do the physical rehabilitation with the technique you like more. There is not important the technique. Technique is an instrument. The most important thing is diagnosis and planning treatment. I hope you enjoy this transmission, and I hope I will see you, a lot of you, in the next transmission in our Friday for English speaking. Bye bye everybody, until next transmission.